Hola a todos, soy Javier Poveda y esto es De Bien TV, el canal en el que te lo vas a pasar de bien mientras aprendes geografía, historia e historia del arte. Este vídeo va dirigido a mis alumnos de cuarto de la ESO de sección grupos A y B del CEIPSO, el Encinar de Torrelodones. In this video, we are going to take a look at the contents of the Unit 1, which is the Ancien Régime and the Enlightenment, and specifically to the first part, which is the Ancien Régime. We are going to use the presentation that I showed you in class, so let's make some magic. Okay, now we are here in the presentation, and let's start with this. Okay, now I'm here. So we are going to talk about the modern age, okay, from the 16th to the 18th century. This was the political situation in Europe in the 17th century. We have that the most powerful states during this period were Spain, France, England, and the Holy Roman Empire. And the predominant system was called the Ancien Régime, or the Old Regime. The Ancien Régime it's a French word, was the political, economic, and social system in Europe during this 17th, 18th, and also 16th century. During the Ancien Régime, the feudal system, which was the previous system coming from the Middle Ages, was modified by political, economic, and social changes. The most important ones were the following. The monarchs became more powerful. Open economy based on skilled craftsmanship and increased trade. The bourgeoisie became more wealthier. The bourgeoisie, remember, is the richest part of the lower class. Okay? Humanism developed. Humanism is a way of thinking in which the human being, is put at the center. Okay? It's like people started thinking about the human being instead of God. There were advances in science and philosophy, and new artistic styles developed. So, summarizing, the main features of the Ancien Régime were an open economy, powerful monarchs, and a state system society. Okay? Let's talk about the first one, the political part of the Ancien Régime. In this 17th century, the absolute monarchy came to predominate in Western Europe. It was called like this, absolute, because the king had unlimited authority. The king could do whatever he wanted, okay? And this is because his power was believed, I don't know, more synonyms, to come from God, okay? Dei gratia, by the grace of God. What is the model, the most important king, the symbol of this absolute monarchy? Louis XIV of France, okay, who ruled during these years. He exerted his authority in various ways. For example, he did not call the States General. The States General, los Estados Generales, is the parliament of the Kingdom of France, okay? The king used to need the parliament in order to pass some laws or to raise new taxes, and Louis XIV, he did not call them never. Okay, no, that's not true. He called them just once. Okay, at the beginning of his kingdom, of his reign. He also controlled the government and intervened in the economy, introducing protectionist measures. Okay, introducing taxes and customs for the foreign goods. This is a picture of the States General, des États Généraux. My French is awesome, as you can see. And this one is the meeting in 1789 with Louis XVI, which marks the start of the French Revolution. But that is part of the next unit, so let's move on. We had also absolute monarchs in Spain during this 17th century, and as you already know, they were Felipe III, Felipe IV, Carlos II. I refuse to translate the Spanish names. And also in Spain, we also had a parliament, which, its name was Las Cortes Generales. It's the same name as the legislative power we have nowadays, okay? and here they are meeting in the El Real Monasterio San Jerónimo in Madrid, next to the Museo del Prado. So now let's talk about the economy of the Ancien Régime. It had the following characteristics: a subsistence agriculture with very low productivity. This means that the agriculture was not commercial, so the crops were not sold in the market. People farmed to meet their own needs. Okay, they did not have a surplus to that they could sell in the market. Okay, they only produced what they needed, not because they did not want to, but because they couldn't produce it. Okay, why? Because they use outdated techniques and tools. For example, here in this picture, this plow, which is very similar to the plows the peasants used in the medieval and even in the Roman times. Then the dominance of the guilds. A guild es un gremio. These were associations of craftsmen in the same trade, in the same job, that regulated aspects such as working hours, prices, wages, and tools. Here you have a picture of the shoemaker guild. Okay, for example, if I want to start a business in the shoemaker trade, okay, I have to I cannot, for example, sell my shoes at the price I want. I have to sell the shoes at the price that the guild tells me to do. Or for example, I have to pay my workers the salary that the guild tells me to pay. Okay, I have no freedom to run my business as I want. Okay, that is the dominance of the guilds. And finally, the trade. The domestic trade grew very little due to internal custom duties. Remember, custom duties, aduanas, and the poor quality of the roads. Okay, however, on the other hand, the foreign trade, the trade abroad with other countries or other continents, was expanding due to the discovery of America in 1492 and the establishment of new sea routes to Asian markets. These routes to America and to the Asian markets were dominated by the Spanish, the French, the British, and the Portuguese. Also, during the 17th century, Europe's absolute monarchs imposed a new economic system, which was called Mercantilism. This is a system that was based on the idea that a country's wealth, its richness, depended on how much gold and silver it possessed. That's the reason why we, the Spanish, brought a lot of tons of gold and silver from the gold mines and silver mines in America to Europe. Finally, the society. The society was divided in estates, okay, starting with an E, estates, estamentos in Spanish. The states of the realm continued to be the dominant form of social organization in Europe during the Ancien Regime, okay, because the states came from the Middle Ages. We had three states. The first state, which is the clergy, the church. The second state, the noblemen. And the third state, the rest of the people, everyone else, okay, the common people, the ordinary people. The first and second states had privilege, but the third state did not have anyone, okay. What was the main privilege that the first and the second state had? They did not pay tax, okay. They maintained their economic power by collecting tithes from the peasants. This is for the first state. A tithe is the 10% of the crops, diezmo en castellano, and through the income they received from their lands, in the case of the noblemen, the second state. The third state, although had to pay tax, okay, it was the only state that paid tax. During this period, the differences between the various groups which were part of the third state increased, okay, because the third state was not homogeneous, okay, they were like, let's say, social classes, okay, within the third state. It's an anachrony, but I think we can use it. We have the upper middle class, called the Bourgeoisie, we talked about it before, which were prominent merchants and business owners, okay. We said that the foreign trade expanded a lot, and who dominated the foreign trade? The bourgeoisie. They became richer and more powerful as the European economy developed. On the other hand, the peasantry on the day laborers, a day laborer is a jornalero, un jornalero, suffered during the 17th century because of some of the poor harvests due to outdated techniques, the rising prices and the high taxes. Remember, they were the only ones that paid taxes in the Ancien Régime. Now, let's talk about philosophy, science and art in the Ancien Régime. The rationalism and empiricism were the new ways of thinking that emerged in this century. In rationalism, we have René Descartes, Renato Cartesio, who founded modern rationalism. According to this idea, the human reason is the only valid source of knowledge. The human reason is the only way to know the truth. He is opposing the usual way of thinking of achieving the truth, which was through God, through the Bible, through the faith. On the other hand, we have empiricism, which people such as Locke and Hume, they maintain that knowledge could only come from the sensory experience, like seeing, smelling, touching, for example, and from observation, from experimentation, okay? So, putting this all together, rationalism and empiricism combined, they became the basis of the scientific method, okay? We know what is the scientific method because for sure you studied it in another subjects, okay? But very fast, you have to, in order to acquire knowledge, you have to follow some specific steps, which are observation, measurement, the establishment of a hypothesis, the experimentation which demonstrates or refutates the hypothesis. If the hypothesis, Dios mío, is proven right, then we have the conclusions. If it's proven wrong, then we have to change the hypothesis. So some of the most important scientific advances during this time were, for example, the dispersion of light discovered by Sir Isaac Newton with this prism, and the universal gravity law. Okay, the episode of the apple falling on the head of Sir Isaac Newton is false, by the way, but yet he discovered the gravity. Galileo Galilei, who proved the heliocentric theory of Nicolaus Copernicus, okay, that the Earth rotates around the Sun and not the other way. It was thought that the Earth was the center of the universe and all the celestial bodies rotated or revolted around the Earth. This was proven wrong, and now we know that the Earth rotates around the Sun, or revolves around the Sun. Some instruments like the barometer invented by Torricelli and the microscope by van Leeuwenhoek. Here you have the pictures. The mechanical calculator by Blaise Pascal. I don't know how this works, but for sure it's very interesting. And then regarding art, we have a new style, the best style that the history of art has given to us, which is the Baroque. Here are some examples, most of them in Rome: San Carlo alle Quattro Fontane by Borromini, St. Peter's Square by Bernini. This is the interior view of the dome of the Gesù in Rome, Vignola and della Porta. We have a sculpture. The god here is Bernini. Here is the Rape of Proserpina. Look at the hand grabbing the leg of this lady. Here is the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa by Bernini again, and again Bernini, Apollo and Daphne. Look at this. She's converting into a tree. And in painting we have the god, which is Caravaggio. Here it is Judith Vigeren Holofernes, which is an episode of the Bible. The Incredulity of Saint Thomas, also by Caravaggio. Then Rubens with the Judgment of Paris. La Venus del Espejo, Velázquez. And this is it for today. So let's make some magic again. Here I am. So this is all for today. This was the first part of this unit. It was a bit fast, but it is because it's a summary, okay? We already have seen this in class. Espero que os haya gustado el vídeo, espero que os hayáis enterado de algo y nos vemos en el próximo. Muchas gracias por verlo y recordad, l'état c'est moi, el Estado soy yo, frase apócrifa de Luis XIV, pero que ilustra muy bien este periodo. Nos vemos.